everyone. I'm here with Kansas City Mom Collective, and we are delighted today to be talking with Dr. Paul Martis of Olathe Health, and he is a family physician and is here to help us navigate the back to school feelings that our kids might be going through. Moms are shopping for school supplies and getting ready, but one of the things that definitely my own children go through is just back into routine and new classroom, new teacher, new friends. Parents aren't around to help them navigate that. They're at school. So can you give us some tips that we could maybe teach our kids of how can a kid find calm, in those moments of anxiety when mom and dad aren't around to coach them through it?
Sure. Yeah. So briefly, my clinic's kind of situated between a high school and a daycare. So I kind of see kids different ages, pretty much the whole year. And it's tough because we're coming out of a pandemic right now, which was kind of just really, really slowed things down for a lot of the kids. And now it's almost like they have to go back to school and be normal. So what is normal for some of these kids who don't really know what normal is, especially these young kids in elementary, So a lot of times, I think the first step is to have the parents talk to either the teachers or coaches, whoever they are, and let them know that their kid may have an anxiety issue or may kind of act out. So at least those people are aware what to do. Second, the kids can work on techniques that they can learn from home, breathing techniques, slowing down, their thought process, trying to figure out, okay, everything is new to me. How do I navigate all of this? And as the school year goes on, then they can have friends that they meet and kind of talk to those friends and have kind of like a buddy that they can talk to and kind of bounce off ideas if things get overwhelming for the kids. I think that's the most important thing is letting the adults know what's going on. So then let the kids be the kids and just have them kind of go through the whole process.
And so then how do you, thinking about, letting the teacher know, how can we give kids kind of the agency to advocate for themselves, to speak up to a teacher and maybe say, I need a minute alone, or,
Sure.
What can we tell kids about speaking up for adults?
I think that has to start from the home first. I think a lot of parents are so used to doing everything for their kids, and then when I set them out in the real world and they have to fend for themselves, and some of those kids have a harder time. And as parents, we want them to all do well. I think first we have to let the kids, start that at home, where the parents foster the independence at home a little bit, let them do things for themselves at home, and then when they out in schools and other places, it's like, okay, how do we deal with that? So ownership of feelings is very important. I think I always tell parents, if the kid's happy, sad, let the kid experience those feelings and then navigate through the whole process with those feelings, so they can understand, okay, if I'm really angry or sad or happy, how do I navigate through that and feel and kind of move forward. And also, if there's any problems that arise, how to take ownership of those problems. For example, if a kid is anxious and fights and things like that, you own up to that, whatever you did as that kid, and then navigate through it and have a learning opportunity and move forward. I think that's the most important thing. But I do believe, yes, it has to start from the home, where the parents can just let the kid be independent at home instead of doing everything for them. And so when they go out in the real world and in public, it's so much easier.
I mean, it is hard when you see your kids struggling, especially you think with those anxiety, because
Sure.
they often might come from, say, a parent who has anxiety. And so it just is like
Correct.
a cycle. And so what are some ways are there some practical tips you have that, if my kid's exhibiting anxiety symptoms at home, like what I can do as a mom to help him foster that
Sure.
independent, like working through it?
So first thing is to identify the triggers for the anxiety. Certain situations, certain times of the day, certain events can make a kid feel a little bit more anxious. So work through those. So find those triggers first, and then talk to your kid about those triggers. And be like, okay, this is going to happen. This may happen your entire life, or this may happen just in school or whatever setting you're in. So as long as your child understands, okay, this could happen again, how do I deal with it? Right? So that's the first thing, is the trigger. Then figure out ways how to deal with that anxiety. Now, kids sometimes can just shut down, or they can get overwhelmed and just cry, or just have too much emotions to deal with. So you have to figure out where my kid is in that spectrum. And then, talk through those feelings, talk through that whole process, and figure out what type of anxiety provoking situation your kid finds themselves in and how it makes them feel. How can they navigate through that? Why are they anxious? What causes that anxiety? What are they fearful of? And then it's so much easier to navigate that situation and go, okay, this is how we can help them. And honestly, anxiety is developing skills pretty much every year they're in school and even out of school. And so when they become young adults and adults, then it's easier to kind of get through that whole process.
So, kind of on that note of kind of setting them up for, a little bit of a success, what do you recommend to parents who are probably right now setting up extracurricular activities and sports schedules? How can they factor in their kids' anxiety and coping skills
Sure.
and
I think
creating that structure?
Sure, and I think a lot of parents do feel like we have to play catch up because a lot of sports were kind of dialed down a little bit, and so now it's like catch up and have their kids in multiple sports, multiple days of the week, multiple practices. It's exhausting for the parents. It's exhausting for the kids. And I think sometimes you ask your kid, what do they really want to do? You may not always get the best answer because kids are still kids, but you can see what they enjoy, how they interact, how they are after practice, after games, what their mood is like, and then you can foster those type of events more than just having them in a whole bunch of things, spreading them thin, because they have really the rest of their lives to kind of do what they want to do. So I think as parents, we need to take a step back too, and then do multiple sports if you want different seasons of the year. I do realize a lot of the sports and a lot of the activities goes year round. Some of the winter sports is indoors, indoor soccer, indoor football, flag football. But I think you also have to kind of just take a step back sometimes.
Agreed. It's a challenge.
It
Um,
is. It is.
so, after evaluating all this and you kind of set your kid up for success and you're teaching them skills, if they're still struggling, how do you know you're at the point when you need to reach out to your family physician or a therapist? What are some signs that you've reached the point that you need professional help?
So the real big telltale signs is change in behavior and
Okay.
change in routine. So if you notice your kid's behavior is off from their baseline, and as a parent you can pick up on this. Obviously, you ask them what's wrong. Maybe it's something that's not really anxiety related. Maybe it's something that happened in school or situationals or friends, whatever the case may be. But change in behavior is the first important sign. Second thing, if they're school age kids and they get graded, are their grades slipping, or has their work kind of suffering? So teachers sometimes can let parents know, hey, is everything going on okay at home?
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes kids obviously don't really want to tell their parents everything. They don't want to tell teachers anything. Sometimes they confide in friends because they think that's the most closest person to them. And you have to really get involved in your kid's life. You have to know who their friends are. You have to know how they interact with their friends. If you choose to get them a cell phone, and they're allowed to talk to their friends, how often are they doing that? Have they stopped doing that? So that kind of thing. Are they more reserved in their room? So all of those telltale signs can point to, hey, something's not right here. And obviously talking to them. Now, I've had kids come in and see me where the parents are like, something's wrong, I don't know what it is, and they don't feel comfortable telling their parents. So when they come see me, at least they're here, and then I can start that door, open up that door for them, and kind
Hmm.
of figure out what's going on. Then I tell those kids, hey, is it okay if I discuss it with mom and dad? Kind of see where you are, kind of see where they are, to kind of help you out and go from there. So that's honestly the best way, is change in behavior, change in pattern, change in their routine from every day. That's the telltale sign that maybe they need something a little bit more to do with mental health.
And you would have them start with their primary care.
Yes, yes. Start with primary care, kind of talk it through, see what's going on.
Okay.
Primary care can offer resources to kind of get the ball rolling for therapy, and which is probably more important than just starting randomly on medications right away. So
Right.
therapy is more important, kind of getting them to talk it out, and you can always talk through the situation, see how things are going. And everything is so dynamic right now, everything changes so fast, right? And
Right.
unless the stressor is always there in that kid's life, and there are lots of stressors like that. But yeah, therapies and talking it out and developing those skills to help with anxiety is the most important thing.
Yeah. Something, a lifelong skill, probably, that,
Sure, of course, yeah.
yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, and it's a interesting time to be going
It
back to
is, yeah.
school and developing new normals, and I feel that catching up stress. So
Sure.
I really appreciate your expertise and helping us navigate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and happy to help and discuss any of these issues. Especially it's challenging, like you said, but we can just get through it. Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much. Yeah.